Hi. I just get to talk.
Yeah, just go for it.
So, about 5 years ago, I was teaching in an elementary school, and for a variety of reasons, I was really, really unhappy, and I had already done a yoga teacher training. I was already invested in daily yoga classes at 4:30, and I had a pivotal moment in my house with my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and he said, "We're not doing this next year. We're not doing this." And I quit my job, like almost immediately. And from that point was when I think goal setting became a part of my life. And I wasn't yet a part of Lululemon culture, or at least maybe I wasn't aware that I was a part of it. And I started this process of creating 1,000 things. And so the first thing that I created was Yoga for Young Warriors, and it is my heart. It is the place where my elementary school teaching merged with my love of yoga and passion for our future. And I started that business, and I started it on my own, and I went into schools, and it was fabulous. And then some really beautiful people trusted me, and they let me teach yoga to adults shortly after that. And it's true, she's in here too. But someone trusted me, and so then I created 1,000 other lofty goals in relation to that, and I started teaching spin, and I was teaching sculpt, and I was teaching kids yoga, and I was like doing 100,000 things. And I think the really big thing for me, and taking advantage of Lululemon as part of my community, was that I was living my goals in a space of not being enough. Always thinking that I needed to tell somebody I was going to do something bigger and better than the last thing I had told them. Like that I couldn't just be okay in my own skin, and I had to be like, oh, when are you going to do a retreat? When are you going to do a teacher training? When are you going to... And coming into Lulu actually opened my eyes, and this incredible opportunity to consider what I want 10 years from now. And when I close my eyes, I want a simple and drama-free life. Maybe it's in a really beautiful place, and it's with some really incredible people. But no longer do I permit myself to think that I'm not enough. And Lululemon really, really is the backbone of that, is realizing that I have a support system, and I don't need to go searching and grasping for the next big thing that's going to make somebody go, holy shit, Kristen, how do you do it all? I don't know, I'm really tired. I don't know, I'm really tired. And so when new things come to me, opportunities, whether they're participating in a teacher training, or speaking at something like this, or joining someone for a coffee, I think, is this in alignment with who I want to be 10 years from now? And if it is, the answer is always yes. It's always yes. And if it's not, because I've set these goals and because I know what I want in the future, and it's simple and drama-free, I step away. Because that is also, I think, a big part of goal setting, is like, what isn't in alignment? Where am I using my energy that's not serving me?
I think a lot of people, this happens for a lot of people. Do you have a good example?
No, I was going to say something, but I think I might say something next. The other thing that I'm so glad you guys are here. For real. I'm just going to try not to cry. The next thing, after I write down what it is that I envision, and when I've set my goals, the next thing I do is I trust. I saw a really funny comedy piece recently where they were making fun, they were playing fun at wanting something in your life, like setting a goal. And it's kind of like the kid in the car in the back seat who's like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Am I living in Steamboat? Am I living in Steamboat? Are we in Steamboat yet? Are we in Steamboat? You ask once, and then you trust forever, right? And it just sort of unfolds. And I don't know that I think maybe what I bring to the Lululemon culture that maybe Lululemon, because they're a company, can't bring, is this really strong sense of God, of something bigger going on than whether or not the next goal happens for me, right? Whether or not I take 5 yoga classes a week. If I don't, what happens? I only took 4. I didn't make it to my mat at all this week. This is not the end of the world. The world is actually working in my favor, in your favor. And so faith is a huge part of how I do this whole thing.
Awesome. I think Kristen was led a leadership thing in our development days for all the store managers in our company in the Southwest, and we had some huge learnings just from her speaking. And I think I'd love for you to speak to how we were in that space of setting these goals of like, I run 3 half marathons and blah blah blah. That's because that's what you
Yes.
see. It's almost this like looking good thing, and as opposed to I just have dinner with my husband.
It's, yeah, oh yes. It is.
That's the goal.
So one of the things that's part of the Lululemon goal setting structure is making your goals scary. That they should be bigger than you think possible. Audacious, thank you. And what's scariest for me is not picking up my phone first thing in the morning and logging into Facebook. What's scariest for me is thinking, oh my gosh, what's somebody gonna think if I don't show up on my mat and instead I share a conversation with somebody that I love. And for me, my goals now, especially the stuff that's 10 years out, is they're about simplicity, about doing a little bit less. I think it's so easy in this culture to think that we need to constantly do more. Constantly do more. And instead, leaning into the community that you have and sharing really tender and sweet, heartfelt moments, it's where it's at for me. And I do think it's scary for most of us. It's scary for us to disconnect from, or to connect more fully into how am I engaged with the person in front of me, rather than, ooh, I have 3 more friend requests because I spoke today at this thing, right? Like, staying really present is scarier for me, and I work on it every day.
Awesome. What about that quote?
Ooh.
It's the best.
I feel like it's a little overrated now. Okay, so the quote is, be more interested than interesting. Try to live your life being more interested than interesting.
Does anyone have any questions for Kristen?
Thanks. I do. I got that from the Today Show. Kathy Lee and Hoda.
While they were drinking martinis.
While they were drinking, they had like a panel of men, and it was actually on dating advice, like when you're dating a woman on your first date. What's your advice? Be more interested than interesting. And I was like, whoa, that's my mantra for now. Kathy Lee and Hoda, bring it home. I do, I DVR the Today Show.
Someone else does, I heard that, yep. Who has a question for Kristen? Yeah, go ahead.
So, I mean, I'm going to give...
What's your name?
Jessica.
Jessica, hi Jessica.
Hi. I'm going to put this out to Kristen, but also, I guess it kind of goes to any of you up there. I guess one of challenges that when I talk to friends and family about goal setting is kind of coming to realizations that you weren't expecting. And I think, especially with you, Kristen, like coming from something that's a more, I would say, for lack of a better term, like a traditional job type, and then all of a sudden realizing, no, I want to do something completely out of the box, completely original. How did you deal with the emotions, with kind of the taking that step and jumping into something so unstructured? And how was that for you?
So your question is like when I made the leap into yoga, how I dealt with the fear of it kind of getting paid very little for fun. No kidding. You know, like I I cannot tell you how much the people in my life have made a difference in my ability to be courageous. Whether it was the person who asked me to teach, giving me as many opportunities as they could to grow and be better, or the people who I came home to and come home to still, who remind me on my hardest days that I live a very blessed life. I live a very blessed life. And when I stop and sit in gratitude for what I have, it's a much easier to just sort of soften into your goals rather than force into them. Does that help?
Have any of you three had that same?
I did.
Go ahead.
I left, I